What's up, y'all? It's Lone Wolf. So today, out here looking like half Rambo out here, going for a nice walk in the nature park. And today is a special episode. It is about the Apple. Genesis talk. And I decided to do this video as a season 3, season 4 interlude. And I'm not going to start season 4 until I get paid because I'm kind of petty. I want my podcast to back off. So, the deal is with the Apple. First, I'm going to start with the fact that I'm writing a book about it. So I'm going to go over what I have right now and maybe bounce some ideas I can write about. So the deal is, well, you're not supposed to eat the apple, okay? I'm eating the apple. Well, there's two apples. There's the apple from the tree of life, and there's the apple from disobedience, which is also in the Bible referenced as the apple of the wisdom to know from right or wrong. So what does that mean? The Garden of Eden was a stage that was set by the Lord in order to facilitate the awakening of morality and righteousness versus wickedness and disobedience versus obedience within humanity. Okay, so the snake, some people say the snake was Satan. Well, the snake in the Garden of Eden was used by God as a manipulative factor to push Adam and Eve into consuming the apple. The apple was the first darkness that ever entered the human vessel. Okay, well, that's kind of weird that I'm eating this, and I should have said that, but well, this apple's pretty good. It is really good, but what I can tell you about it was that it had to happen in order for humanity to awaken. Okay, so there's some people say in Genesis that the apple was psychedelic. The apple wasn't psychedelic, it was an apple. And it could be that the apple wasn't dark itself, that God gave a command: you do not eat from this tree or you will die. What does that mean? Well, they didn't drop dead. What happened when it means that they will die? They were thrown out of the Garden of Eden and were forced to bear a curse. All three of them, by the way. The snake was cursed to eat dirt and basically move on its belly, which is weird because that almost indicates that the snake had legs and arms. It was kind of mythological, not mythological, but different than what we see, okay, today. Hopefully I don't see a snake out here. I'll freak out, bro. But what else can I tell you? Women were to bear a curse of you will have pain during childbirth, but your husband will rule over you and you will basically want him. The curse for the man, well, there was more to the woman's curse, and that was basically that basically her descendants, that there will be a specific rivalry between the snake and the feminine, which was a very strange thing for me to see, and to see how women, they cannot stand being manipulated and betrayed. They like to be led, okay? Therefore, pretty out here. Therefore, okay, we see the man is to bear a curse, that the ground is cursed beneath him, so he is to toil for his food. And there are thorns and thistles, so there's suffering that is accompanied with that. So instead of having a luscious garden filled with all sorts of fruits and trees, rivers, abundance, they were sent out into the dark to toil and to basically do it themselves. So all of that was removed from them. They weren't able to indulge in it. Which, by the way, this is where I first came out here and did the introduction of my podcast. This is the exact same spot, just a different time of year. More of a blooming time of year, so it's very, very pretty out here. Very, very pretty out here. So today is the day I want to talk about the apple. Simply the apple, not the snake and the stick, because that's going to be, it's Footprints 2. Footprints 2 really focused on the snake and the stick. And I decided to do a lecture about it. So I'm going to organize a lecture about it, maybe online, maybe it's one that I go and I speak to people. Probably be easier if it was online, but I'm still putting that together, okay? I'm going to kind of wander through here, see what I can find. But what can I tell you about the apple, okay? The apple is archetypical in our day and age. Or it happened once in humanity with Adam and Eve, but it's archetypical for us, okay? Well, what does that mean when it's archetypical? So it is the archetype of temptation. So we are tempted with the apple from the darkness. So it's the devil's #1 move on his PlayStation controller to try and get you to disobey God and to get thrown out of the Garden of Eden, which is the light. So you get thrown out into the dark and you have to wait and work your way back in. What forms do the apple come in within the matrix? Out here, there's not really much of apples, okay? Well, I've got one, but I'm not talking about literal apples. What is my temptation out here? Well, it seems pretty peaceful, okay? Temptation comes in many forms. Your phone is a temptation. Oxytocin hit, chemical hit. Why? Okay, well, it is a form of temptation in our modern society because, well, instead of doing what we're supposed to be doing, as in caring for our kids, raising our kids, working, reading the Bible, doing what we're supposed to be doing, we're watching TikTok too much. We're on YouTube Shorts too much. We're watching the wrong content and we're intaking things that are not good. It's not good food. It's bad spiritual food. So bad apples. Internet. The internet's got a hell of a lot of bad apples, okay? So, what comes along with that is considered an apple that is disobedience to God? Pornography. I see too many people out here who are addicted to porn, who have problems. That messes with their brain. It messes with their relationships. It messes with who they are. It messes with every little thing. It's not good, okay? It's not good. Why? It affects your romantic relationships where you treat your sexual relationship with your partner like you would watching pornography. You expect that from them. What else? Okay? It ruins the sanctity of marriage. It will destroy your marriage quickly, very quickly. That's why you don't do it. It's not advised to do that because you will lose your partner. It's not attractive for your husband or wife to be watching porn. If I had a wife or a girlfriend and I caught her watching porn, I'd be kind of grossed out. Well, some people are like, well, and it's like, well, no, I'm good. Like, why? Well, there's something sacred about connection that needs to be valued, okay? So this is going to be a longer video. I'm going for another walk out here later today, but more of with somebody that I need to help. Hey, look, there's a snake hole. Oh, great. Hopefully the anaconda doesn't come up and get me. But here we are right now, okay? What does pornography do to you? It gives you over a 250% overload of dopamine, okay? So overloads your systems and it starts to trigger certain things and make new electrical connections in your mind that screw you up, which where science and spiritual can cross is that electrical pathway mixed with deep reprobated mind, reprobation, pathways of reprobation in your mind that develop, which that's the spiritual way. And then you have the scientific way where you see electrical pathways that are overloaded and they are reconnected, and now you are a damn mess, okay? So porn, an apple that will send you down disobedience, that will throw you way out there, and if you do not repent and turn from your ways, you will end up way out in the dark and doing something stupid, like being addicted to porn, having to go to therapy for it, or finding yourself in a situation where people can see it on you and they're grossed out, okay? Or you're trying hard to find somebody good for you and you cannot find Ruth. Why? Because you're too addicted to Pornhub. Not good. So, what else? Well, what becomes an addiction for you? What is something that you may do once a day? Well, I get a lot of coffee, so maybe coffee is my apple. Not really disobeying God. I mean, it's not like I'm drinking some extremely evil coffee. But it can be seen as a form of an apple. Apples maybe can be also on a scale. Well, not like how heavy they are. Well, kind of. But how wicked is this, okay? The more wicked your disobedience, the worse the apple is, okay? If you are married or you have a girlfriend, you come across somebody that you like and likes you, and you cheat or commit adultery. You have just eaten an apple. Well, I don't know about non-marital relationships, but I'll use marriage, that you commit adultery. You have just broken the 7th commandment, which God is not happy about. You will get thrown out of the dark, or you will get thrown out into the dark for it. You will be punished for it. If that person is married, if you slept with, 2 times the punishment. You are done. You not only committed adultery, but you slept with a married woman. That's a double-edged side. Not a double-edged sword. Well, it could be double-edged sword. Something that you will be hit with, that you will be cursed to a point where you have to lift that off of you. Why? Well, say you didn't commit adultery, but you slept with a married woman. That is not, for your end of it, it is not breaking a commandment. But there is also, in the Word of God, it does say, if you sleep with a married woman, you will have no life. And basically, that husband will be relentless and unforgiving. That's not good. Okay? Don't sleep with married women. Don't sleep with married men. Because if you're a woman and you slept with a married man, it's going to be the same thing for you. From what I've seen, it's two-sided. Okay? But there's a sense of responsibility within a man to lead, that if you sleep with a married woman, I do believe that it's a lot worse than a woman sleeping with a married man. Why? Well, it's your moral responsibility as the masculine to lead, and if that's the case, you need to be wise. If you're not wise, the blind's leading the blind, and you are to be punished for that. So as men, oh, there's a butterfly. They're all trying to get my apple, bro. As men, you have a moral responsibility as a masculine to make wise decisions. Women, they also are human beings, so they have that responsibility too. But the dynamics and curses that were placed upon men and women in Genesis, in the Garden of Eden, state that we are to rule over women, okay? Well, that doesn't mean that we make them carry us around on some golden throne and we, make them carry us through town. That isn't it. To rule over somebody, what does a king do with his kingdom? He leads people, okay? When he rules over people, he leads them, okay? He takes care of them. So we're supposed to take care of women. Well, if women don't want to be taken care of, well, then you're with the wrong woman. Women want to be taken care of. Why? Every woman that I've been around, she loved it when I took care of her. This is how it was. Women inherently have a drive for that, okay? So, man, it's beautiful out here. When we look at the apple, okay? Well, time to drink my kombucha, but when we think about the apple, aside from sexual temptation, which is the number one freaking thing that the devil will use against you, is sexual temptation. Why? Because it is the strongest thing that we have within us as men and women, that it's the primal drive to mate, okay? And where did the apple stem from? Well, there was a chain of manipulation from the snake to the woman to the man, and all three paid for it, okay? Well, what does that mean? Well, man and women are intertwined, and the snakes within them are interested in each other. But the sticks are ready at hand if you get out of line. It's very weird how humans are, okay? It's very strange, very odd. But what I can tell you is, aside from sexual temptation, what else is an apple? But you will see sexual temptation and temptation of adultery is the #1 thing that the devil will use to ruin a marriage. It is the #1 thing the devil will use to screw up your mind. Pornography. Pornography and adultery. Those two. What else? Drugs. Okay? Alcohol. Too much alcohol consumption can do what? Make you drunk. Okay? When you're drunk, what do? You make bad decisions, which can lead to adultery, can lead to pornography, it can lead to other poor decisions. It's an apple to an apple effect, where you eat one apple, a little too much beer, a little too much wine, a little too much whiskey, and you find yourself in a position where you have less control, where your stick is almost immobilized, but your snake is freely roaming about, unchecked, or more so to be unchecked. I guess you could be drunk and still have a stick. It depends on how wise you are, I suppose, in that situation. But I want you to think about it a little bit. What happens when someone smokes pot or drinks with someone from the other gender? They tend to lose control of their emotions. They tend to lose control of themselves. They tend to lose control of all rational thought and logic, okay? Do they lose control of wisdom? Generally, well, there's something about that. If you don't have dark seeds in you, that the darkness will press on you. So if you have all your dark seeds removed and you're fairly wise, I think you could fight that off, okay? But there's a higher chance that the other person is going to put a seed of lust in your mind. Or if you already have one, you might cheat. That's not good, okay? Cheating's not good. I don't advocate for it. I think it's dumb. Ooh. If you're gonna cheat on your girlfriend, you might as well just break up with her and go date. We'll work on yourself first. So, the apple. What else can be an apple? Okay. And I'm looking at more modern times because, well, earlier days like biblical, the apple was a little more simple. Okay. Well, you see things here. A lot of it's sexually driven. Temptation is sexually driven within us, which is very strange. Well, and you see how far temptation could go, and that's not good. So if you can resist temptation, you can resist the devil and he will flee. So if you can resist the apple, the devil ain't got nothing. That's his #1 thing. I'll throw an apple at you. There's people out here that just pound apples all day long. Kind of like how I did, just not physically, more spiritually, okay? Because, well, that apple was good, bro. I'm just out here walking, just enjoying myself, getting out in nature, enjoying my time. The eagle's nest up there, doing my thing. So, no work today. What else is an apple? Laziness, okay? Why is that? Well, I'm not working today. Well, I'm not being lazy, but man, this looks bad. How can laziness be an apple? Well, because you could do what you want and all this, and you can avoid your responsibilities. Well, and I can just live free. Screw it. Well, that's not good. Technically, that's eating apples constantly, okay? So you're eating apples constantly because you don't want to work. So temptation and pleasure go hand in hand. So what does that mean? Well, outside of porn and all that, masturbation as well. That is temptation. That is an apple, okay? And it's one of those things. Does lusting after your wife, is that considered an apple? I thought about that over the last few days while I've been writing Footprints Volume 3, The Apple. And I'm still wondering, is that okay or is that not okay? I'm pretty sure God would approve of you lusting over your wife over lusting over someone else, okay? Like your neighbor's wife. That's not good. So, is it wrong to be lustful over your wife or your husband? Yes and no. can it lead to problems? Maybe being lustful for your partner too much can lead to you being lustful for other people. If you are too interested in lust and not enough in spiritual connection. So what does that mean? Well, there's certain things in the bedroom maybe you should avoid. Maybe that's something I could say. There's certain things that you might do in the bedroom that you want to do with someone else after that, because your unchecked seed of lust that you both have in you after that has caused a problem. Okay? And that could be something, I don't know, maybe I won't go into examples, that might get kind of weird. Everybody clicks off the video. So yeah, like, what are you doing? It's like, I'm just a normal dude, just chilling. So what else is an apple, bro? You think about it. Well, it comes in different forms. Stealing is one of them. That is an apple that has gone back since Judas, even before that, okay? Stealing. Judas used to steal from the bag, okay? That was an apple that he took. And that's probably how Jesus recognized him as a demon. Is he's stealing. He's breaking a commandment. Thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not murder, okay? Thou shalt not do this, this, and that. Bear false witness. You know, Jesus is the Son of God. He knows exactly what's going on, okay? So, let's think about it this way, okay? If you steal something, okay, and you're living on a narrow path, and it could be money. Money is the number one thing that will get you thrown out there too. That's also an apple. So money and stealing kind of go hand in hand, but they don't, because you can steal an item, you can steal something that's not yours, and you owe them that back plus 20% per the book of Numbers. So what does that mean? Well, it means that God can see you as disobedient and remove you from the fruits of the spirits if you go and you steal something. If you are offered money as a dishonest gain, I believe that goes right along with it. Because why? Well, if somebody offered me money for my ministry as a donation to keep going, that's a fairly honest gain, okay? If somebody offered me, let's say, like, money to do something wicked that would further me, or here's a Corvette, or here's a Mustang, or here's a truck, or here's this, but it's not really pushing my ministry, but they're wanting something wicked in return, that's something that's probably not approved of very well, okay? I'm just going to be honest. It's probably not very approved of. So, my question is, okay, what else is an apple that can get you removed from abundance? The Garden of Eden. What was the Garden of Eden? It was peaceful. It was abundant. There was no stress. There was no worry. There was something about the Garden of Eden where God will provide for you, okay? Right now, I've noticed that God has provided for me. Yes, I have to work for it, but the opportunities are there, okay? If I went and did something to disobey God, maybe He won't provide for me anymore. Well, what's that mean? You go grow your own crops and do it yourself. I'm not gonna support you with this luscious garden of trees, rivers, and the fruits of the Spirit, like discernment. So that's one way to lose your discernment. Disobey God, God will remove your gifts. He will take it from you. God giveth and He can take away. A lot of people see that as money. Think about it in spiritual gifts. So you have spiritual gifts. You can lose them. You can have them taken from you. Can you gain them back? Repentance. Repentance of what you've done wrong can get you back into the light. But God will remember that. He does not forget it. Maybe He writes off your sins, but, well, He's all-knowing. He knows. Does He know that you're more prone to doing that because you did it one time? Possibly. Well, probably. I'm not God. I just serve Him. So, my neck is killing me today, bro. Like, slept wrong, woke up all bent and messed up. So, looking around here, just enjoying the beauty of the outdoors. But what else is considered an apple? If we can understand that temptation and sexual drive is hand in hand, and we see it in the Matrix, we see it every day. But if you search deep inside you and you look at what are your temptations, what are you most prone to, if you can see inside of you and learn you here, what have you done that you've eaten an apple in your past that you've disobeyed God, okay? And then you apply it to your life on how can I catch that and have discernment in my own life to not commit that sin again, okay? So sin brings a curse. You have to know that. So what does that mean? Well, it doesn't. God obviously placed, curses on Adam and Eve and the snake. But what does that mean for us, okay? Sin bears a curse. Well, repentance is the thing. But you also have to understand that maybe that means for us on a scale that there's a consequence for it. And maybe even that consequence is as simple as recognizing it, and maybe other people recognize it too. Something of that nature. It could be a million different pathways I'm going here, but sin brings a curse, okay? But sin, you can be redeemed from sin and the law by converting to Jesus Christ and following him. And once you follow Jesus, you start to understand where those dark seeds are and what you can pull out, okay? So it's complicated, but it's simple. The Bible and Jesus' testimony is like that. It's complicated, but it's simple. The more you seek to understand Jesus, the more complicated and simple it is at the same time. It's kind of mind-blowing where you're like, trying to understand that, but you can apply it to your life differently than someone else could apply it to theirs. I've never been on drugs, but somebody else who's been on drugs and who has eaten a different apple can apply that to their life differently than I can. Addiction, temptation, okay? So it's more than just a sexual drive. Addiction is an apple, okay? Well, you can see. Look at I think that smoking is one of those that's like, I'm not really sure about it, because people say, well, Paul smoked and this and that. And it's like, well, I quit smoking cigars. But people may say it's a sin, people may say it's not. I don't believe it is unless it becomes a serious habit. Like one that's damaging your body, which is a temple, okay? So you kind of understand that and go, oh, okay, so there's limitations and there's borders on these things. But addiction is an apple, and addiction is an apple you can't put down. Well, look at pornography. It's an addiction. It's an apple that you cannot put down because you're so reprobated in your ways that you have a chemical drive to pick it up, okay? And that's with alcohol too. It says not to get too drunk in the Bible. You make sure you check that. There's certain things in our, in God's creation out here that we have to be in check with. That's one of them, okay? Well, what else is an apple? It goes beyond that. I think it goes beyond addiction and sexual temptation. I think it goes further than that, okay? And you look at, is pride an apple? I thought about that. Is pride an apple? It's something I thought about for a very long time. When I thought about Cain and Abel, for one, but I also thought about, well, is pride actually an apple, or is it, what is that? Because it seems as though that is how the devil worked through Cain and was stoned from heaven. That's how I saw it. So what is pride? Pride comes before fall, okay? Well, pride is a sin. And, well, look at the apple. The apple was disobedience. So maybe our prideful ways, if we act on them, is a sin, depending on how deep that goes. Well, look at Cain and Abel. That was murder. So that broke a commandment that was like, bruh. So the apple's consequences vary they directly correlate with the 10 commandments. So depending on what commandment you break is the severity of the apple. That was how I saw it, the severity of the disobedience. But why in Genesis did they say that it is the tree of wisdom between right and wrong? Because if you've never eaten that apple before, you've never had the testimony to reflect on, to apply it to learn something from it. So you can gain wisdom from living a straight life, of course. Everybody's had an apple. I'm just going to be honest. Well, you could see that there's people that, have never broken a commandment, and that's good. And it's like, well, and people ask me, have you broken a commandment? I have to look through them and go through this. I've never been married. I've never murdered somebody. That's good. I've actually been a pretty good dude. So it's like, well, have I had the seed of lust? Have I hooked up? Yo, sure. I had my time when I was younger where I hooked up and dated and did all this, and I look back on it and you're like, well, was that wise? And I'm like, not really, because I was a freaking fool, because I could have been doing something like this, okay? Well, and I could have avoided a whole bunch of disaster that happened to me from people that wanted to see my downfall. Well, the thing was, it's like, so people can see when you go through certain things like that you have a testimony to run with too, and they will betray you and add to it, which is very strange. I'm getting off topic, but people inherently have this dark drive to betray you, to make you bitter and angry just like them. It's not good. So when it comes to the apple, okay, I want you to take a step back from your life, okay, and I want you to read Proverbs for a day. I really want you to read the book of Matthew and John, Luke, and Mark. But I want you to start with Old Testament Proverbs, okay? I want you to dig into wisdom. I want you to apply it to your own life every day, okay? Look at some of these wise sayings from Solomon, okay? And apply them to your life. Why if you were an arrow, that you're headed in the wrong direction, okay? So which direction are you headed backwards in that you can fix by reading Proverbs and applying it to your life, okay? Right when you do that and you start understanding wisdom, I want you to look in front of you and see the apples that are coming your way. And what I mean by that, say you're a female, okay? And I'm going to speak to females here. I generally just speak to both, but if you're a woman and you reflect on Solomon's sayings of Proverbs, and you see, well, I'm not really valuing, God with my wealth first, or like there's something that I'm not doing that I see in there that I see with my lens that hits here, and you go to fix it. Right when you go to fix it, okay, you will see apples come your way. And apples may be different for women than men, but you have to understand something. The snake, okay, manipulated Eve first, okay? So as a woman, you may be more prone to the apple and caving to it because it is presented to you as a targeted attack differently than it is a man. This is really like, whoa, okay? But it was targeted to you in your line of femininity differently than it was a masculine, because the female presented the apple to the man. Snake worked through Eve to manipulate Adam, and everybody got, busted. God was mad. Well, God also orchestrated it too. So everything was for God's will and God's plan. He's always in control. Once you understand that, you really start to understand the world, okay? But let's continue. What kind of apples are a woman going to see, okay? Well, say you're with somebody that's a pretty righteous dude. It really isn't that bad. He seems to take care of you. He seems to take care of himself. Maybe you take care of yourself. Maybe you take care of him. He sends you this guy with the freaking red sports car and all the money and all this, but you can see in his eyes that he is way out there. He's like, you kind of look at him and go, oh, like there's something dark about you, okay? But your inherent drive is he makes more money than he does. He's got the sports car while he's got a, I don't know, Acura Integra. Something like that. Don't do it, okay? Don't. You will look at it. What is the potential that could happen from that, okay? Well, instantly in your mind, you're thinking it's a more stable footing for me, okay? But what else is it? He could end up hooking up with you and giving you herpes, okay? This is real talk. He can end up giving you herpes. He can end up giving you HPV. It may seem like a financially more stable situation, but psychologically and spiritually, it is on sand, like way on sand. It is so unstable that you don't, like, you're 3 weeks down the road with this guy and he's pounding cocaine, and now you're hooked on it because he's got you on it, and this and that, and your life is exponentially worse in a spiritual way. Did he buy you a Louis Vuitton purse? Well, sure, okay? And it could be he ditches you a month later. So what'd you get out of it? Potentially an STD, potentially an addictive quality to a drug, and a Louis Vuitton purse. Not smart, okay? I'm not saying that all rich men are evil, okay? If a guy's got money, it doesn't mean that he's evil. Maybe he's honoring his God with his wealth first, but generally, I don't think he's driving around a Ferrari. Why? Well, because he could sacrifice that Ferrari to serve God better. So, you understand that once you start to dig into the Word, and I would start at Proverbs. As a female, I would start at Proverbs. I'm not a female, but I'm just saying, as a female, I would start at Proverbs, because there's something fundamental that is that sticks there, okay? And why would I say to read that before? Well, I'd say read Genesis first, yes, but Proverbs, I just feel like for some reason it can equally hit humanity on both sides of the coin. Where some women may steer away from some books at first, but then dive into them after. I believe that Proverbs 10 is where I would probably start, okay? Well, and you see something here, okay? Sexual temptation, you know, money, things, material. Material is an apple too. Material is definitely an apple. Well, where are you going to be down the line, okay? Well, maybe what happens is that you do get thrown out into the dark with disobedience, because he pulls you out there, okay? So he pulls you out there even farther because you leaned into the light and tried to figure it out. The devil will try and pull you away, and will use your inherent chemical drives, and will use modern culture to do it. Devil don't want me releasing this video, but it's going to happen. It just is what it is. So you think about it, okay? Just admire God's creation real quick. Gorgeous out here. But you think about it, all right? Sin brings a curse too. So there's consequences for it. So what's your consequence for it, okay? Well, it's not saying you're married, but it's your boyfriend, okay? You ditched him for the rich guy with the red sports car and the cocaine and the Louis Vuitton purses and all that, okay? Well, what's that going to do for you, okay? I'm going to head back from here. Well, maybe not. Maybe I'll keep going. You know, what does that mean, really quick, okay? Well, all this goes down, and maybe you're with the guy, but you're in a very dark, maybe potentially abusive relationship where you are constantly under control. You are not being ruled over or led. You are being dominated tyrannically from the dark. There's a huge difference there, okay? And a lot of women will say, I've been through a bad relationship and this and that. Well, maybe you were tyrannically governed by somebody, which was terrible, okay? So what does it mean to be led? Well, you can follow me. I follow God. That's a way of leading where he's not blind. What else does that mean? Well, what's your consequence? Well, your consequence is that you are tyrannically ruled over. You're tyrannically, I mean, kind of enslaved, okay? Versus when you're ruled, you're led. So being ruled over in Genesis, it creates an immediate response of, I don't like that, I'm an independent person. And you are, okay? You have independent choices, you have a responsibility. But to be ruled over in biblical times, like that, old wisdom like that, it doesn't mean to be tyrannically, whipped and enslaved and you're going to do this because I have all the money. That's not what it is. Being ruled over means to be led, okay? So a good man from the light will lead you and your children to what? To abundant trees, rivers, and fruit. Good fruit. And you have to know that that ever-pressing snake and apple from the dark is always there, and that should be your predatory alarm. Men, I believe, women have developed this predatory alarm sometimes, I think, differently than men, because they have historically, since Genesis, have been manipulated and bamboozled by the snake, okay? So their predatory alarm system is different than men. Men have a predatory alarm system, yes, they fight off lions and all sorts of crazy stuff out here, since the beginning of time. Women have one that's differently, where, think about a man, you're with a man, and the man meets a woman in front of you and they shake. That woman can immediately tell if they are just being friendly and just acquaintances, or if they are potential romantic partners. They have an inherent chemical drive to see that. That all comes from the snake and the apple. All your chemical drive of predatory alarm comes from the snake manipulating you, well, Eve, with the apple. That's where the difference in the drive comes from, I think. I said, you can't chemically, scientifically prove that. Well, what can you prove? Testosterone versus estrogen, this and that. That's all scientific crap. I'm talking about spiritual. Your spiritual predatory alarm is built into you differently. Think about a Lamborghini's alarm system versus like a Chevy Trailblazer. They're different. I'm not saying that men have a Chevy Trailblazer alarm. That's kind of weird. But your predatory alarm is, think of if you were looking through like a rifle scope. That's kind of weird for women. They're probably like, what the heck? But it zooms in differently than men would. A rifle scope can zoom in differently. Women have a different lens when it comes to predatory alarm. Okay, it's different. We share it on the same chemical human balance, but spiritually, men have a different alarm. Well, think about how men. Let's see this really quick. You're a man with a woman, and a woman shakes hands. Your woman shakes hands with another man. Okay. From what I've seen, men seem to be highly insecure of any man that shakes her hand. Which is, well, I mean, women could be that way too, but it depends on your dark seeds, I suppose. Your level of insecurity. But I want you to look at it differently. What do women do when, what is the reaction to the predatory alarm that women give versus men give? It's different. There's an insecure factor to it, yes, but I want you to think deeper than that. Basically, what I'm trying to tell you, I'm not a woman, but what I have seen from women that I've dated is their predatory alarms from other genders and apples. That's an apple. They see the apple better than I do. Why? Because I've shaken hands with a woman, I'm like, oh, acquaintance, and she's like, no, she has a thing for you, and I'm like, I don't see that. And I found out a couple years later, yeah, that person had a crush on me and liked me and all this, and I'm like, I had no idea. I didn't really care. So it was an apple, but I was like, oh, okay, whatever. It's very strange how a spiritual apple of a person and a person, that women and men can see it differently. Can I tell when a man is interested in my female? Yes. But women, I don't think that they see that necessarily in the same lens. And women may say, you don't know us, and that's fine. I don't really care. If you're gonna do that, click off my channel, go somewhere else. I'm fine with that. Same with men. If you don't know men, okay, well, get the hell off my channel. I really don't care. It doesn't bother me. I'm just speaking. What I'm saying is there's a chemical thing about it, but there's a spiritual difference in the way that we handle it, bro. That's basically how it is, in the way that we handle it. So some people are just like, well, this is what happens. Some people get insecure if you shake anybody's hand. You can walk up and shake this Chinese pug's little paw, and your boyfriend or girlfriend, that's like, I don't date people that are too insecure. So what do I say to people about that predatory alarm about the apple? Okay, well, think about the predatory alarm in a situation where there is no third party. Okay, you're a girl and you're with a man for a while, okay, and you catch him on his phone watching porn, okay. What predatory alarm goes off? You have a higher potential now to cheat, and I trust you less. Why? Because you've broken the sanctity of that connection, and, well, you're doing something weird with your phone. Dude, it's one of those things. So I've heard horror stories. I've never been a porn dude. It just screws with your mind. I used to have friends that I used to see how their life decisions would go right after stuff like that, and I'm like, you're basically hooked on drugs at that point. Well, you're not, but it's a drug. It's oxytocin. 250% overload. You can tell when somebody's making decisions differently every day. So what I also have to say, okay, is the predatory alarm system about the apple. Well, what is the snake? Okay, can we view the snake as somebody from the dark that tries to tempt our mate, or something from the dark? So if I'm with someone, I can see the snake in the apple and how that works. Sometimes better than the other person can, because they're duped by it. Well, And I'm pretty sure that women can see snakes in apples. Well, after what happened, do they resent the snake, and their descendants resent the snake because maybe they are more prone to falling for it? Could be. I've been cheated on a lot in my relationships, dude. I had people that went off and cheated, and I already knew they cheated, and I just left. I had some people that hid it for years. Well, I wasn't with them at that point, but I left them because I knew. I had some people that I can tell when you have been tempted and you've eaten an apple. Why? Because I was in the light with you, and if I'm walking this narrow path right here and you're walking right along with me, I can tell spiritually when you drifted off or you were pushed way out there. Because if you cheated, your chances of making irrational decisions within the confines of the relationship are a lot higher, and you're way out there. And I can tell. So when you distance from that connection, there's a snake right there, bro. I'm not playing with you. Gardener snake, homie. There's a gardener snake. That's weird. I'm telling you. This is a weird video. Apple and the snake in one. I don't know if I caught it on film, but he slithered right through the grass. Great. Yeah, it's like I gotta get out of here now. But you see it, and it's like, okay, so can I see when my partner's being disobedient? Yes. Why? I can physically see that if you've disobeyed God and you've disobeyed the confines of the relationship, if you have a hedge, okay, this is something I learned recently, and if you have a hedge and you have a partner and she's done witchcraft on you, you will see that she cannot sit in your hedge. It is pressing on her. She cannot sit in it with you. It's pressing on her. That was one. That wasn't with a spouse. It was actually with somebody that I was close to, that I had a hedge up. They did witchcraft on me and they denied it, but I was pressing on them. They couldn't sit in it. And when people sit in it, generally what they do is people will get spell work cast over them, and then they'll come and sit in my hedge, okay? And I can just fight that off of them really quickly. Or they're with me and I can just read the book, they can read with me, or I can minister to them and just smash that right off of them, and they're free to go. Like, it's gone. You're good. You're good. So you can tell when somebody has done something to you that will push them out of the light from you. If you have a partner and you have a hedge and they don't, but they walk in the light, so say you read and they don't, they can sit in your hedge with you like it's a protective dome. And I think that's one way that we rule, as to say. So I believe that's one reason why in Genesis it also says that we rule over women. Men rule over women. Why? Well, you also, to rule over somebody is to protect them, okay? So if you have a hedge and she doesn't, she's able to sit in your hedge and find protection, okay? She's able to sit in that with you, even if someone's so far out in the dark and they can't come to your hedge, they did something that they haven't repented for, and they get hit by the hedge instead of seeing it as comfortable. So it's more abrasive to them than it is comfortable. They can't sit in it, it's abrasive. So I've noticed that there's people all around me that can sit in my hedge, that they haven't done something to break a commandment. You can just kind of tell. But you can tell when somebody has disobeyed God because they are not allowed in your hedge. So that is one way, if you're a man in a relationship, to tell if your female has cheated on you, okay? If you're in the light and you have a hedge up and your feminine has been in your hedge for a long time and done this and that, okay? She's been in your hedge, she's been able to sit there and do this and do that, and everything's been good, okay? Easy peasy, peaceful relationship. And one day comes along where you notice that you can see it in their eyes that they're out in the dark, and they press on your hedge instead of sit in it comfortably. You know that something happened where she broke a commandment and she most likely cheated on you. That is what I have found so far, okay? And a hedge takes 3 years to build, and you have to maintain it. How do you maintain a hedge, okay? Well, not only do you read the Bible, but you preach. So that's what I'm doing right now, is I'm preaching. I'm technically putting good seed in my hedge, okay? When I read Revelations or I preach Revelations, that is another thing, okay? I preach Proverbs, or if I just read the book of Matthew and let the hedge set, boom, I've strengthened it. So it's one of those things that, you know, and I read other books of the Bible, like, you know, James and John and Nehemiah. I read a lot of things that I put, those are fruits and gifts from God that you can add to it, okay? That will keep you protected, but will also, it allows you to, it gives you, you know, weapons for spiritual warfare, dude, from the light. Like, those are gifts that God gives you to protect yourself, bro. So they're important, okay? They're really important. But the hedge will press on people. They cannot sit in it and get their spell work removed. You can see it on them, and you can tell when someone's disobeyed you. The girl I'm with right now, she's lied to me, okay? But she's never cheated on me. She's never done something to disobey God so much. She sits in my hedge all the time. I don't have a problem with that at all. So she sits in my hedge, and, well, it's comfortable for her. She likes it, to be honest. But I've noticed that there are people that carry the Jezebel spirit. They cannot, if your hedge hits them, they are so pissed, bro. Like, they get enraged. I had one lady that snapped on me, and I was like, I don't even know who you is, but I'm changing your husband's oil on his truck, so I don't know what your deal is. But like, she snapped. Like, Jezebel spirit cannot handle a hedge. She cannot handle a hedge. It causes the spirit to pull off of them, but it's latched onto them like venom. So they have to remove that off themselves. To remove the Jezebel spirit from somebody, they have to actively choose to do that by how they live their lives, and they have to pick up the Bible, okay? So you can, if you're around, if you minister to somebody who has a Jezebel spirit and they accept accept you ministering to them, and they're interested, they're picking up the book and they're doing the work, they can actively fight that off of them, okay? They can actively fight that off of them. That is, the Jezebel spirit, I do believe, is very hard for women to fight off. I encourage people to do it, because I think that women are strong and they're independent, and I do certainly believe that they can fight off the Jezebel spirit. It just comes down to a matter of if a woman is willing to, because they do accept it into their lives. Why? They accept it into their lives for control over their partner. That dude's flying, bro. I want one of those. This is tight. I'll be filming on the fly talking about Proverbs. Like, So what I'm saying is that women can fight off Jezebel, but they have to be armored, bro. Like, Jezebel ain't nothing. Like, for a man, I can fight off a Jezebel no problem. Why? Well, because I pretty much, like, peeled it off your face, and then you ran from me and was enraged, and it's like, well, at least you're away from me. Like, I'm totally cool with that one. That ain't no problem. But for a woman to fight that, like, with that Jezebel spirit comes a whole lot of dark seeds, dude. Like, a whole lot of them. And I've been in relationships with Jezebels before. I had one Jezebel that was, like, hell-bent on control, and she couldn't control me, and then she ruined my life. And that's what they do. If you are around a Jezebel, okay, they will seek to control the relationships and the dynamic. If they cannot, they will weave a bunch of darkness behind your back and ruin your life. You have to be extremely, extremely careful. What I would say is, if you really love somebody and you're causing a hell of a lot of problems and you're sowing all this darkness, if you go and you have kids with someone else and then stick their name on the birth certificate, you're a Jezebel, okay? If you're doing stuff like that to ruin their lives and then destroy their careers and leave them homeless because it makes you feel better, you got a problem, bro. Serious issue. You have to deal with that. Why? Well, nobody's going to want you around, for one. For two, you cursed yourself so bad. That's the problem with Jezebel, too. Is if Jezebel is like the ultimate apple eater, bro. Jezebel and Leviathan, ultimate apple eaters, bro. If you have a chronic apple syndrome, you probably have Jezebel spirit, or you have a Leviathan spirit, or you're carrying some sort of spirit like Gehazi. The spirit of Gehazi, stealing, bro. Look at what happened with Gehazi when it came down to Naaman and his leprosy. He was cursed with that leprosy that Naaman was healed from by Elisha, okay? So you see this and you're like, well, what happens, okay? Well, if you go and steal something like that, and that was a divine situation where somebody was healed by a prophet too, so that's like, that happened, and I was like, dang, like, I read that and I was like, bro, you got smoked over by leprosy, that ain't good. So what is that? That's a consequence, okay? So is there divine consequences from stealing from, you know, divine situation in a child of God? Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. From the Garden of Eden, That was God basically furthering humanity through suffering. You have to suffer these curses. And well, this was the abundance. What does that mean in our daily lives, okay? Well, I'm living in abundance. I have a hedge around me, dude. I'm good. So what's that mean? Well, God will provide for me. If my hedge around me, okay? I have light all around me from reading the Bible and preaching and doing what I'm supposed to be doing. What does that mean? I mean, if this was not here, okay, and I'm just in a blank room, I have fruitful trees, I have apples, I got rivers and mountains. Like the life-giving water is around me. The life-giving bread, the life-giving water, Jesus, bro, the blood and the bread. You know, it's willingly accept that as communion in my everyday life. You got to think about it. So that's why it's like, okay, look, I can give you an example of this, okay, of the abundance, bro. They done sent a mechanic here that was cursing cars and cursed my business and was doing a whole bunch of spell work over my ads and basically put me under for 3 months, bro. It's almost summer and I'm not working. I ain't got one job. I've been able to pay my insurance. God provided for me. How? Well, first of all, my neighbors ended up hooking me up with a deal to do their shocks on their car. $500. A lot more than I expected to be paid. They're also Christians. What else did I also have, okay? Well, God provided for me in a different way. I'm able to do DoorDash. For 3 years, I was stuck with no money, dude, right in Footprints 1 and 2, the very foundations of my ministry. So I had to do the work. Oh, I'm down here chilling real quick. I'm looking for fish right now. But there's abundance. Look, summer's coming. I'm not got any work, but I'm about to go get a fishing license and a pole, and you betcha, I'm going to be reeling in some Chinook. I'm pulling in fish, bro. So maybe God did it to where it's like, okay, you want to go ahead and ruin his business and curse all this and take over? Go ahead. Go deal with all the people that I just dealt with that were extremely terrible to me. Not all of them. So what's God doing? It's like, well, I can't get any work. I need money. Well, you can still make money running food. So you have abundance. You have opportunity. God will provide. So what's he doing? Well, maybe he's telling me to come out here and fish, bro. Like he's probably looking at me right now and just being like, well, why are you working? Like, you've been through 6 years of just dark hell in this place. Like hell, bro. Like I went through so much, bro. So much. Attacks, witchcraft, curses, hexes, cursed people. Freaking, I cursed cats, bro. I pet a cat and feed it, and I thought I was doing a good thing. I got electrocuted by some dark cat. Dude, I've been through it. But I never ate the bad apple. I didn't even, my girl, okay, had lied to me about something, and I didn't even cheat on her. I didn't do it. No, it's okay. I forgive you for it. Move forward. What'd you learn? Well, if you lie, I'm probably leaving. And it was something that wasn't, it's different, okay? It's just, it was different. It was like, okay, well, you lied. And it's like, well, it was something that was like, if it's something that's super, like, hard to talk about, then I get it, okay? Like, there's a form of understanding and forgiveness for me. There is. Oh, I almost slipped, bro. There's a form of understanding and forgiveness for me, where I'm like, well, okay, it done happened. Well, I'm not a baby. It's okay, you lied. I'm not going to go lying to you or, tit for tat or nothing like that. Well, it's going to make things worse. Well, and people are like, well, why don't you just leave? Well, that could happen where she has to go take care of her moms and we separate. Or that she has to go take care of her dad and we separate. Or something comes up and we separate. Do I think she's going to cheat on me? Well, there's the potential for betrayal, but I would say probably not. Why? She has been cheated on in her past, and she cheated on someone in her past, and it was a big life lesson for the woman, and she already knows. What she wants to do is leave him. Like, okay, good, perfect, other way around. We're good. You don't want me around, just let me know. Well, a lot of times I'm like, I'm leaving. I got stuff to do. I want to be alone for a while. I'm a lone wolf, dude. I just do that, where sometimes I'm like, I gotta go. So women, they can't stand me, because like, we want you around. It's like, well, you had me around yesterday, bro. We just went and got tacos. I gotta come out here and look for fish. Well, I gotta preach to y'all too. That's my job. So my job is that scroll that I talk about in Revelations. It's the testimony's unlocked. When the testimony's unlocked, it is your moral obligation to preach it. What you gonna do? Stand there with a testimony and not do nothing with it? What? What? You got work to do, bro. Serious work to put in. So yeah, it ain't over, bro. I'm still hiking the ball and throwing it. What's the score? Well, the score in this town right now is like 30,000 to 0. I'm not even the home team. I'm the visitor. Home team is pretty much the devil, bro, and I'm just smoking them out. I don't even know. It's like, well, and he keep on throwing the ball, interception. You gone. I'm gonna chill up here. This seems like a good place to do a video, bro. I might come back here. But the apple, okay? The apple is something. It sets the premise for humanity. Well, what's up with that? Well, God's will. It's God's will. The apple, bro. The apple, the snake and the stick. It's almost like you see it as a root. The apple, okay? The snake and the stick. And it's like, well, what are the snake and the stick? And then you have, well, the mark of Cain because his pride. And you got, Saul and David and this and that. It's almost like it's interconnected like a tree root. But it all stems from the apple and the first two people on earth. It's that simple, but it's that complex to understand. Once you put good seed in your mind, you see it. Well, where did it all start at? Well, where it really started at was the story of creation. And then you got the apple. Then you got the snake and the stick. And you got the mark of Cain. You got, disobedience and pride. And then you can evaluate where these things are at. So in your daily life, when you're like, okay, there's an apple. Well, that could lead to a snake and a stick and pride and this. And like, I'm not going down that road. Sheesh, bruh. Look at how many people done gone straight down the pipe. I ain't going down the pipe. I'm tired of pipes, bro. They may call me Mario, but I ain't going down no pipes. No way, bro. I glitch and run through them. How do you glitch and run through it as Mario, bro? You don't go down the tunnel. You don't pay attention to no turtles either. No demons. I don't need no demons around me. This is probably why I'm gonna end up moving out to somebody or somewhere that is moving out to somewhere that is calm, bro. There ain't no demons out here. Like, there is no demon floating down here in a kayak. I don't have to deal with it. If I go back into that town, bruh, just armor, sword, and a native bow and arrow, and here I am, bro. Just back off. You take one. It's like, that's why I love being out in nature, bro. This is something too, is when I was with Jezebel. Well, I wasn't with Jezebel, but I was with a woman with the Jezebel spirit. That sounded weird. She would, like, there was so much physical and emotional and spiritual abuse that happened in front of children too, that I was like, I gotta get out of here, bro. Where would I go? I'd grab my salmon rod and I'd go out to the nearest river and I would just fish. I didn't catch nothing either. I didn't even care. I just threw spinners out there. Woo, like, I knew what I was doing, but a lot of times I would bring both of her kids with me, and she was probably off cheating. So I'm taking care of her kids, and the whole time I'm thinking they're mine because she's weaving all that darkness. I got screwed. But what can I say? I also gave those two kids a chance to understand what grounding was. So they kind of understood that it's like, okay, like, this is different than, like, Wheels on the Bus in City, going to school. It was different. It's different than hanging out with grandma and grandpa and this and that. Like, this is peaceful. There's something different about this here. Maybe that was why God put me in that situation too. It's like, those kids need to have some sort of a fundamental in their childhood they can remember that they can compare that to. Could be. And they find their way through my books. Could be. I don't know. I'm not mad about it anymore. I'm healed from it. But God gave me something. He gave me something to do, bro. Like, that's the beauty in it. Is it's like, well, what can I tell a parent that has a kid that's like acting out and having problems and this and that? It's like, well, first, Build a hedge. Second, bring them out somewhere like this, nature, bro. Well, teach them how to build shelter. Teach them how to, well, probably not to start fire. You got a little Jimmy over there, 8 years old, spark in the backyard. It's like, well, let's not play there. But let's go with, like, how do you build a shelter up over this so you can sleep? Well, go primitive. Sometimes that'll straighten, so you don't gotta, you know, punish your kid that way. Sometimes it's just bring you back to a primitive state where you start to adjust their lens, bro. So punishment, a spanking, okay, well, you gotta do what you gotta do as a parent, okay? But sometimes all they need is a lens adjustment. And sometimes that's like a hard knock, where what could you do? Well, I'm gonna pack like 6 sandwiches, and well, we're pitching a tent, we're here for the weekend. There ain't no food, so you make it last, and we're gonna go from living in this abundant house, so we're gonna experience something and bond on a lower level, and your lens adjusts because you get to know me on a more human lens without demons around me. Without people, and they're constantly like, that's the influence around you. Kids need to be grounded too. They need, well, not like go to your room, but like you need to be grounded in nature, bro. They need to, there's something primitive about that with kids in the wild, like my native ancestry, where children didn't grow up wheels on the bus, bro. They grew up out in the woods and, you know, fishing, sifting through rocks, skipping rocks, doing this. Like, there's something different about it. Well, I'm getting off topic with the apple, but maybe that was more of just a personal thing for me. I learned something. It sucked. Do I miss them? Yeah. But it was only my situation to influence. Well, I lost my 10-year career, but I willingly did not go back. I got stuff to do. I saved people's lives for 10 years too. Maybe I end this on more of a personal note. But it's like, well, then you think about it. What apples did I eat that led me to that situation? Well, maybe that's reflection on testimony. What apples did I eat? Well, maybe I lusted for the girl and I didn't really love her. Seems to be. There was a lust factor there. I also had a bunch of curses on me, and, well, she put a few of them on me too. So it's like, well, that ain't good. So there were sticks for her too. Well, there's still sticks going on because, well, she's part of my testimony, and, well, revelations, bro. It's, well, sheesh. That probably don't come off too well, but it is what it is. So, what do we see? You know, what do we see with that type of stuff? Reflection on your own apples. What apples did I eat, bro? That's messed up. Ain't like I'm looking at them like Granny Smith's, but, well, that was pretty sour what done happened to me. So what did that tell me? Well, there's tons of beautiful girls, okay? But they ain't meant for me. Why? Well, I'm probably gonna be lone wolf, bruh. There's tons of beautiful girls, okay? Well, there's one for me. Maybe there's one for me. Ruth. That's not my decision to make right now. So it's, what apples did I eat, bro? Well, maybe my 10-year career was an apple. Why did I do it? Because it paid me good. I made $35 an hour. Saving people's lives in the ICU, messing with ventilators, intubations, and gunshot wounds, and a whole bunch of stuff. Well, and I reflect on it, I'm like, those apples weren't worth it, dude. I stuffed my face full of 10 years full of apples, which was what? Maybe it was greed. Maybe I should have shut up and just kept doing automotive, because it made me happy. Instead, well, I went for the money. That was dumb. Ate a bunch of apples, bro. Well, look what happened. I was way out in the dark, spinning around for a second, trying to figure it all out. Got betrayed, everything ripped from me. God pulled me to him. You need to figure this out. Okay, I'll walk with you. Why does that happen too? When you get betrayed down to your core, why are people more prone to just like hanging on to God? What is that? What is that? It's you're safe. God is safe, bro. You inherently know that God won't betray you. Well, people that say that I was betrayed by God, well, come on. Maybe your lens is a little screwed up, and maybe that was just, hey, you need to kind of look at God's will instead of seeing that God betrayed you. God doesn't betray. God is he's a parental God. He's a God of war, but he's a God of peace and comfort and love. Alpha and Omega. So for me, well, what other apples did I eat? Okay? Well, there was some that I caught sticks from people I didn't really understand. Like, if we look at, like, okay, sexual temptation or whatever, it's like, well, I went on a date with a girl, but she was like green with me the whole time and pissed off, like I was like dating the Hulk for a second, female Hulk. I don't know if that was an apple or what that was, but I still to this day, I'm like, what was up with that? That was weird. But you reflect on things. What apples did I eat, man? Sexual temptation. Well, what happened in the meantime after all that happened? Well, I started hooking up. I was doing something. I was like, okay, this just doesn't happen to you. You got your life. Your life is going down. It's going down. Mayday, mayday. And I'm like, I'm just trying to hook up with somebody. I didn't really understand what the hell was going on. It was almost like I knew I was going to lose it all. That person, that she was going to take it that far and destroy my life. But what did I do instead? Well, I was hanging on to worldly things. I was hanging on to apples, bro. God's like, what's your deal with apples, bro? Put them down. Apple pie lover or something. What's going on with you? And I'm like, I'm trying to find somebody, and this and that. I was clinging to the wrong thing. I was trying to find a mate when that wasn't what I was supposed to be doing. God was kind of smacking me with sticks constantly. Hey, hey, turn here, turn here. And eventually it went kaboom. And he's like, what'd you learn? And I'm like, okay. Too many apples. That was dumb. The thing that's weird is I knew about the apple too, but I didn't know about it. So people would ask me, what's up with the, before when I was going through it, if they would ask me, what's the story of Adam and Eve? Well, I would have been able to tell you about the, the garden and the apple and the snake. But I didn't know what it meant. I was like, oh yeah, there was a snake and apples and yeah, they got thrown out. And it was like, well, that's not good enough. It was too surface. It was too, I had superficial wisdom. Was it maybe superficial wisdom? Superficial knowledge of it? I didn't even have wisdom, bro. I was walking around dumb. Well, I was looking back at okay, what apples did I eat? I hooked up with this person, this person, this person, this person, okay? All right? So I hooked up with these people. Well, what is that? What were the consequences of those apples? Well, it didn't work out. I wasted time that I could have been hiking the ball. The impact of everything that happened to me could have been less if I would have turned to God sooner. And sometimes God just allows it to happen because he knows that maybe that big impact on you is what's necessary. So he just allowed it. He didn't speak to me about it. He just allowed it to go down. He was like, okay, here we go. And I'm like, all right. Like, mercy, just okay, I get it. I was like in my flesh like the Tasmanian devil, bro. I was spinning around and slobbering everywhere and I was trying to hang on. And it was like, well, hold on. That ain't what I'm supposed to be doing, bro. I was supposed to be setting a foundation. Well, and I did some music too. Well, what did I learn from that? You do music with the wrong people, you may come across a dark practitioner. Well, what's you do? Jump on the bandwagon like a damn fool and try and curse you. Well, gorgeous. I'm going back there to fish, bro. That's a nice spot. Right at the bend, too. But you live and you learn, bro. What's your own apples? I told you, I'm not perfect, bro. I'm far from perfect. Far from perfect. My spirit's pure, but I'm far from perfect. Can I say my spirit was pure before? No. I had seeds in me. That's why you have to be merciful to people. Say somebody walked by me, I done seen the Jezebel spirit pop out and freak out at me. I'm like, yeah. You keep walking, okay? Well, maybe the answer is not to be like full on war, arrows in your skull, let's go. It's more like, I get it, because maybe I had demons in me once as people saw that and I didn't see it. So the matrix don't work through me because I had a dark seed. So it's like you're aware of it and you understand there's warfare. But you also understand mercy, where you're like, well, maybe I was once there. Not walking around like possessed and trying to figure it. Well, kind of. I was Tasmanian devil, but I wasn't doing that. I was more of just like, hey, who's out here? Like, anybody worth the squeeze, because I just got out of something terrible. And that's where people screw up when they get a divorce. Is they go out and they're like, we're going to hit the dating scene, bar time. And it's like, not good. You just took apple after apple after apple. And then sticks that followed it. So, oh yeah, I got lumps on my head, bro. I took sticks like mad. I done took half this forest worth of sticks for a while, bro. I was getting pounded. But I wasn't biting nobody with no, well, kinda. If you hook up with somebody, you kind of bit them with a snake. maybe a subtle nibble, but it's not like I betrayed you and bit you, but it's almost like maybe I just kind of like acted on my temptation and got whacked with a stick, and I'm like, and you didn't feel it until later where it got, you know, it's like, okay, and you read the stick and the snake and you kind of like feel your head and you're like, oh, I took lumps there I wasn't aware of or something. Like, maybe it was all part of the process too. So it's one of those things. But reflection, bro. What are some other apples? Okay, going fishing to get an outlet from abuse was an apple for me. Why? Because I didn't deal with the problem and leave. I wasn't married to her. I should have just packed up and said adios amigos and I'm out of here, and just took the downfall. And well, I mean, you live and you learn, you regret or you don't. But that was an apple for me. Now it's become a peaceful thing. I don't know. Something else that you should know, okay? Being a teenager, you are more prone to taking the apple of sexual temptation than if you were fully grown and experienced. Why? Well, you have hormonal drives that, like, like, teenagers are crazy, bro. You always see the teenagers that get pregnant and all this and that, and you know, sex with underage kids and stuff. And you're like, well, there's a certain thing there where it's like, well, there could be seeds of lust put in you, but the temptation to take the apple is a lot higher with less wisdom and experience. But I think that that's a lot of people, they take that apple when they're younger. And if you're fortunate, if you are blessed enough, you will learn from that apple early on enough where you don't take as many apples and sticks. And well, life is life, bro. It's God's will. So there's certain things that just happen, bro. But apples that I took in my life, you don't regret. You need to push forward. So no looking back. No Sodom and Gomorrah looking back. None of that crazy stuff. You look, well, I mean, you reflect on it, but you don't look back and shake your fist and I regret that. You just understand it, you recognize it, and you apply it to your life forward. So what's in front of you is way brighter than what was behind you. You trekked through the mud. Well, it is what it is. Realistically, reflect on your own apples, bro. Reflect on your own sticks. Reflect on the times that you took an apple, or that you offered, reflect on the times you was the apple. When I hooked up with people after I got out of that, I ate apples, but I might have also been kind of the snake in the apple for somebody else. The lens can perceive it differently. You see it differently. So that person was an apple for me. But maybe I was an apple for them too. Like, we both ate the same apple and we're like, what the heck was that about? Like, it was weird. So later on you're like, well, was it a mistake? Lesson, but no hard feelings. Strange. Hope I don't run into you again. Just kidding. But it's a lesson, bro. And realistically, that person could have taught me something. I learned how to detect when somebody's, you know, dishonest with you. I learned a lot when I trekked through that valley and I ate those apples. Well, why? Okay. Because why did I stop doing it? I stopped doing it because I knew that there was something about this that I was on a wide gate. Like, why do I feel like I'm lost? Like I can't figure out who I am, okay? If you can't figure out who you are, that is the #1 indication that you are. But reflect on your own apples, bro. And a lot of people will reflect on their apples and go sexual temptation. Well, some people maybe go, I was watching porn for years and I could have been out, you know, fishing, bro. Screw the phone. I hate the phone. Only reason I answer the phone, because I gotta work. Sucks. But that's life in modern technology. So realistically, reflect on your own apples, bro. Reflect on your own sticks. Reflect on the times that you took an apple, or that you offered, reflect on the times you was the apple. When I hooked up with people after I got out of that, I ate apples, but I might have also been kind of the snake in the apple for somebody else. The lens can perceive it differently. You see it differently. So that person was an apple for me. But maybe I was an apple for them too. Like, we both ate the same apple and we're like, what the heck was that about? Like, it was weird. So later on, you're like, well, was it a mistake? Lesson, but no hard feelings. Strange. Hope I don't run into you again. Just kidding. But it's a lesson, bro. And realistically, that person could have taught me something. I learned how to detect when somebody's, you know, dishonest with you. I learned a lot when I trekked through that valley and I ate those apples. Well, why? Okay. Because why did I stop doing it? I stopped doing it because I knew that there was something about this that I was on a wide gate. Like, why do I feel like I'm lost? Like I can't figure out who I am, okay? If you can't figure out who you are, that is the #1 indication that you are not on the narrow path and you are on the wide gate to death, bro. Time to figure it out. Till next time. Peace out. Lone Wolf.